Brian Elberg, how we doing, my guy?
I'm doing better now that I'm with you, my friend.
Oh, dude, you are, first off, I know we're going to get into so much today. I'm so excited to talk to you. Taking the glasses off so I can look cool.
There we go, likewise.
All these ladies at home. I'm engaged.
I haven't seen you. I texted you congratulations, but I haven't
so
seen
much.
you since then.
Yeah,
so congratulations.
Thank you very much, my friend.
That's
I'm
very
just going
exciting.
to adjust your levels a little bit.
Sure,
Go ahead and
I
say
got
something.
too excited.
No, it's okay.
Loud.
No, it's totally my fault. It's funny because like I've had this issue where sometimes the audio comes out and it's like Ryan Lynch, who's another great comedian. Go follow him on like Instagram and TikTok. He's hilarious. He gave me the advice. He was like, you need to turn down the mic. And I just have this thing in my head where I'm like, I can't turn the volume down because I'm like afraid we're going to lose everything.
Oh,
but it's like, you know what I mean? So it's always my fault. I always keep it like louder than not. But anyway, that's a long way of saying thank you for the well wishes, my friend.
Of course.
I'm super excited, dude. We're having the wedding planning conversations, which is exciting.
Nice.
And it's like we're getting into it. So it's really fun.
Where's it going to be?
So we're like, it's hard because it's like we want to do something different. We're
Mhm.
thinking like we'll do something in upstate New York,
Okay.
which is exciting. But we don't really want to do a ceremony. And like we're thinking like originally we were thinking like maybe we'll get married at the courthouse and invite some people up to New York State and then like in upstate New York. But like as we go through it, it's like she's like, well, I want to wear a dress. Well, are we going to do vows? So it's like slowly turning into like a real wedding.
Yes, it's I feel like with weddings, I'm not married, but everyone wants to be unconventional, and then you sort of realize that some of the conventions are quite fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like what I'm realizing as we're going through it, because it is nice to like get in front of everyone you know and love and to like, you know, to do that. And it's like I was always like, wow, like, you know, when I met her too, I was like, we were both in the same boat. We were like, I'm not really sure if we're going to get married. And she was like fine with that. But look at us now.
Yeah, there you go.
So
now you're still not married.
Now
but
I'm still
you're
Brian, are you dating anybody or no?
no, not at the moment.
Oh, ladies.
No.
Prominent bachelor here.
Yeah, there you go.
Brian, you're so goddamn funny. We just have to start with that. You've done the show here at the bookstore so many twice, I think. You murdered every time. And you actually sent me one of my favorite messages I've ever gotten about this show, which is that after you came here and you did 10 minutes, no teacher jokes, and you texted me after and you said, thank you for creating a space where like that was possible. That meant so much to me,
Oh,
man.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
That's the truth, because I do most of my comedy is about my life teaching.
Sure.
Because it's a big part of my identity, certainly.
Yeah.
And it's sort of how I think about the world a lot of times is through my lens in that job, if that makes sense. And it's a lot of my comedy, but I'm trying to sort of get it out of there because there are more facets to me than just teaching high school math.
No, of course. And I was just going to say you do high school math and you do algebra, geometry, and statistics, right?
Yes, it's sometimes AP stats, but not this year. Yeah.
Not this year. Okay, gotcha. Do you miss teaching AP stats or no?
No, because I am going to get to do it again next year, and I sort of there's only room for one AP class at a time.
Makes
it's not
sense,
the most.
yeah.
If you want to do a whole podcast about scheduling logistics of a New York City high school, we could, but that's not. I don't. That's the most interesting for the listeners at home.
No, of course, dude. No, but you're so freaking funny. You're one of the comedians, and I feel I don't mean to butter your bread too much because I don't want it to sound insincere. You're like I am ready.
By all means. This is I deal with high school kids all day who do nothing but make fun of me. So to have you come butter my bread, as you put it, is wonderful.
Dude,
Change your pace.
100%. You're one of the comics I love seeing that like work on their act. You know what I mean? Like in other words, like I love watching you work, and like I love seeing your jokes evolve and stuff over time, if that makes sense. And just like,
well, thank you very much. I feel like that is something don't always think that I do well, which I think that I'm a bad tinkerer with a joke.
Oh,
I think
really?
I write a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
But if they don't work well the way that I wrote them, I often am like, all right, well,
you're like, so you don't even play with them, like at all?
want to do it, and I recognize that's the better way to do it.
Sure.
But it just isn't always a club I have in my bag, so to speak.
Do you put any effort into like?
No.
Well, hard no, just big stop. No, in other words, like, because one thing I've noticed with your act in particular is you'll move a lot of jokes around in like different places. Is that something you do like consciously, or is it just like I'm feeling this one here and this one there?
I would say I open with pretty similar stuff and I close with pretty similar stuff, and then I will play around a lot with what's,
like
in the middle.
That makes sense.
And I feel like, to circle back to what you said a second ago, I feel like I write a lot of middle of the act stuff, and and I'm trying to write more stuff that I would feel comfortable taking out the stalwarts, quote unquote stalwart, that I have at the front and the back of it.
Gotcha.
Right? Because, and I'm sure that they're not even as good as I build them up to be in my head, but that is sort of where I feel like I am, where I'm writing stuff and I'm like, oh, I could put that in the middle. So, but not at the beginning or the end. And that's maybe why you feel like I move stuff around, because I just have consistent cycle of mid material that,
No,
I'm,
no.
that I'm moving
No,
around the
that's
middle
not
of this
what I
act.
meant at
No,
all.
I know it's not how you meant it, but that is how I feel sometimes. Yeah.
No, of course. And you have this very unique experience, which is that you're a teacher by day, stand-up comedian by night, which is fascinating to me. And we were talking a little bit about it before the podcast, but my first question is like, take us through like a day, because like it's a very early morning for you, and you're out late at night too. So are you just like constantly exhausted?
I'll take you through a day, which is that I don't know, like I could do the minute by minute schedule of my
I would
day.
love it. Listen, I would love it. This podcast can be as long as we want.
All right, great. So I wake up around 6. I try to exercise and everything before work. I get to work.
What do you do for
around-
exercise? Do you run or something?
So I used to be a big runner. I've
Okay.
run 12 marathons, I believe.
12
Yeah.
marathons? Oh my
But
God.
I haven't run one in the last. I've backed off that in the last year just because of comedy and other stuff.
That makes sense.
Because I sort of maxed out that part of my life where it was like if I just didn't want to keep doing it anymore. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort.
And it's
obviously,
also like, I do hear it's not great on your body as you get older.
I think
right?
that's a myth. I think
Is it really?
I think it is.
I mean, that's the excuse I tell myself, so I don't have to do it.
I think that's it's a myth. It's one of those facts where like nowadays so much information, so many like facts that are available. Some of them true and some of them not. Where I feel like we all just sort of cling to the facts that fit our narrative, and it's like I feel like people who don't want to run often say like, "No, I heard it's bad for you. I heard it's like those people who claim that like I once saw that eating a lot of maple syrup was very good for you, and I'm like, well, then I'll eat it every day for the rest of my life, and I won't ever check anywhere else if that was a good idea."
I will say, even with that, I can't take that out of my. I know we're trying to stop the spread of misinformation.
Yeah.
That one I don't know if I can take out of my
No,
bag.
by all means. No, by all means.
I might still spread that one. But anyway, 12 marathons. Where did you run them? In New York? Or?
3 New Yorks. I ran Boston, one in New Hampshire, one in California, another small one in Massachusetts somewhere, and then one in New Jersey, 2 in New Jersey, one in Pennsylvania. Yeah, so kind of all over.
That's incredible. Yeah. So anyway, so you used to run.
Yeah, so I used to run. Now I do other stuff. I do the Peloton. I do I like a nice old mom style Peloton workout. Me and my girl Jen Sherman every day. Not every day, but a couple times a week. And then I don't know, I lift a couple times a week too, trying to get huge. And then I get to work around 7:45, 8 o'clock, and then I leave work at 4. I coach the track team, so I leave around 5
Oh, you
during
coach
the
the track
season.
team? That's cool.
Yes, and then I try to hit a mic or go to shows or whatever, and then I end up getting home at. So I typically will go home, and then I do a thing to kind of try to reset my day when I get home, for a few reasons. One, because I will have a second cup of coffee when I get home.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I sort of think of it as, oh, now my day starts again.
So in other words, when you come
Right.
home from school.
Right, because I don't want to think of comedy and that as a hobby.
Yeah.
I think of it as like almost a second job. So
Of
it's like,
course.
oh, now I'm getting ready again to
go
go
to
out
work.
again
Yeah.
and go to work again.
That makes sense.
Right? And so I'll try to do that. And I am tired sometimes, but I am just sort of blessed with a lot of energy in general, which is good and bad. But
No, and that's, I mean, and I struggle with that. But also, too, I am someone like, I work from home 5 days a week. So, and I'm so fascinated by it because for me, I think part of the reason, and I'm trying to be better about this, is that I'm so tired all the time. I'm just not physically moving because I will get up a lot of the times and, I'll make coffee in the morning and I'll walk around my apartment, maybe take my dog out. But then I'll kind of just sit down on my computer and then I'll just sit there for 5 hours, maybe take the dog out again, come back. I have to work and do whatever. And again, I'm very fortunate I get to work at home, but I do have to actively today I worked and I had coffee. I had a Ghost energy drink before I came here just to make sure I'm ready to do the pod and stuff. So I'm just, that is so admirable.
well, the good news is you're not running. If you're
Yeah.
sitting, so that's that is
Right.
the
I'm like,
best way to
running's-
stay healthy. In fact,
I'm like running's bad for you, but staying at home 12 hours a day, that's there's no problem with that.
well, one of the reasons I got into teaching is because I can't stop moving generally. I like to be moving.
Okay.
I like to be moving a lot. I have a lot of energy, like I said. I like to be sort of doing stuff all the time. In fact, we could talk, if you want to talk low points, when I studied abroad in London, and that was it's not mentally in the best headspace that whole time. But one of the reasons was I had an internship there working for the Islington branch of the Labour Party, which is like their liberal party over there. And I literally went there the first day I have this internship. They gave me a big stack of petitions, sorry. Still in school mode. And I had to go back and look through their database and I wasn't even really entering the petitions. I was making sure the petitions had been entered correctly.
Oh.
You know? So it was
Yeah,
like
so
it was like hundreds of documents, and I'm like, all right, Gerald Johnson. Okay, yep, he lives at this address. Great. And I just did that all day for like 8 hours.
Yeah,
and then I literally went out and I called my dad like on the walk to the tube, and I was like,
I love that.
I was like, oh, that's what a desk job is?
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do that ever again. Because I'd worked in high school. I was a camp counselor, and I worked at a soup kitchen actually
Sure.
as like a maintenance guy and stuff like that. And so I was just like an extra set of hands there. And so I was always had jobs where I was moving and involved with stuff. And then I had one day of a desk job, and I was like, never. I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah. See, I had that day in college as well, and then I continued to work in it for 7 years. So I'm glad some of us got out. And
Yeah.
No, it is like, it's monotonous, and it's just so much. And the hard part too is like having worked in it for so long. A lot of it too is just so pointless. Like I've been on jobs before in projects where it's like we worked 8 months in a row, sometimes 12-hour days, and then
Oh my God.
But at the end of the project, like, and I used to work in a bank that used to be a funeral home, and they used to put us in the room where they kept the bodies.
Wait.
Which is
Okay.
like-
Hold on. It was a bank, not a funeral home that used to be a bank. The other way.
Wait, what did I? No, so
So
it
was
was
it a bank that used to be a funeral home?
yeah, so it was a funeral home. Then they turned it into a bank. So like a little branch of like a you would see like a city or something
Yeah.
like on the side of the on the street, and we would go in and they kept us in the room where they used to keep the bodies. We would sit there for like
This
8 to
is.
12
I mean,
hours
this
a
is
day.
out of like. This is like Kafkaesque. It's like, where like your soul goes to die.
Oh,
I mean, it's a funeral for your soul every day.
I was so dead inside I didn't even
Yeah.
make that connection.
No, there
I
you
was
go.
like, so yeah, but oh my God, we would do that, and then we would leave the project, and then I remember distinctly after that project, they were like, "All right, the bank got sold, so everything we did was for nothing." Dude, it was crazy. It's nuts. It's like so wasteful
Oh
and whatever.
my God.
Yeah, it was. But so I'm glad you're in teaching. Is what I'm trying to say. And
yeah.
we've talked about this before too. There's like a teacher shortage right now, right?
Massive. The whole time I've been a teacher, there's a massive teacher shortage.
What is that like for you going into work? Like, are you working more like classes and stuff?
So on like a day-to-day, you don't notice it as much. But like last year, for example, we had a teacher quit in the middle of the year because he had to go deal with something with his family and
Sure.
something else. And like some jobs, if someone quits, you like easily hire a new person to replace them. We just couldn't find a person all year. So like then last year, everyone's picking up extra classes. Some kids just had no math class last year. We just couldn't fill the void.
Wow.
So then
Oh
you
my
have
God.
kids this year who are like, yeah, I just didn't do that last
Stop.
year.
So they skipped
Yeah.
like an entire level of math.
Right, and then some of them need to retake algebra. Some of them were able to just like pass a test at the end of the year
Oh,
that basically said they were good
no.
enough already. But yeah,
Right, because you need those requirements to graduate from high school.
100%.
Oh
yeah.
my God. So it's,
Well,
yeah, so it's not like, so would they have to like double up on math the next year or something?
So some kids are doing that.
some
Yeah,
kids
but
are
so
doing
that's
that.
what it sort of looks like. And
Yeah.
also it looks like if someone quits, you frequently either can't replace them or
Yeah.
you end up replacing them with someone who like, if you're a teacher like looking for a job into the new school year, that usually means, with some exceptions, it usually means you're not great.
Yeah.
So it sometimes means we have to just hire someone, like basically the first person we can get in. We end up having to hire because it's like a warm body to like be in the room and maybe try to watch kids, right?
Oh my God.
I mean, this year we got very lucky because we also had a teacher quit, but then the guy we replaced is great so far. So
Gotcha.
things like that can happen. But
Now, as a teacher and stand-up comedian, do you people at school know, and I know the answer to this, but people
Yeah.
at school know that you're a comedian as well?
yes, so everyone knows. I don't hide it. I don't have a stage name or anything
Sure,
like
sure.
that, which is a big regret that I have.
Same here. I don't have a
yeah.
stage name either. I wish I did.
I
What would your
thought-
stage name be? Have you thought about it?
I have thought about it a lot. I think my
You're
stage
like
name
Bruce
would be
Springsteen Jr. He's a very big Bruce Springsteen fan. So.
huge. That would be. I mean, Bruce would have been a good name. Yeah,
And it's
That
close to
would-
Brian, which
that would
works.
have been awesome. But I
Oh.
couldn't have done. I don't think I could have named myself after Bruce Springsteen. I feel like that would have been. I feel like if I ever get a dog, I might name my dog Bruce. But naming myself after him feels a little bit, even more so than the people who have like Bruce tattoos that
Makes
I've seen.
sense.
But
You could be the boss's son.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly.
That's being a
my
queen.
dad does look a lot like Bruce Springsteen.
Get
people,
out,
so
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. My therapist thinks that's very interesting. But they do look alike. People say. Yeah.
You're at a Bruce concert. Dad!
Yeah, I mean, I was at a concert with my brother recently, and my brother's kids, my nieces, and my sister-in-law, and Bruce came out, and we were all just like, yeah, he looks a lot. He looks a lot like Dad here.
How many times have you seen him in concert?
Probably 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
more. Yeah, it's the best. It's the closest thing I have in my life to religious experience. But
I thought you were going to say a father figure. I was like,
no, no, I have a great dad. My dad's wonderful. We're just on the phone on the way here.
nice.
He was breaking new ground, telling me how much he really hates Trump. It was great.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is.
We decided to mix up the conversation.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good for him. Was he a Trump supporter?
My
originally?
dad? No,
Yeah.
my dad has hated Trump since 2000.
That's
since
good.
1998.
Yeah, mine is a huge Trump supporter.
Oh,
so we're
really? Is that tough for you?
Oh yeah, it's real. Because my older brother is so liberal that it's like, and I'm obviously liberal too. I hate everything that's going on right now. But it's very contentious. They really they go at it, and it's very
Really?
makes the holidays very difficult. When
I
my brother
can't
comes
picture
home.
you being from a Trump family.
Dude, you know what's
You're
funny?
so kind and
I
like
appreciate
you're like
that.
a kind and empathetic person, which I feel like is
Yeah,
Yeah.
except for those immigrants. I just want them. No, it's obviously a joke.
yeah.
I'm making fun of the other side, and need to make that clear. No, and you know what's funny is like
I like how you told me generously that I could that I could cut anything I wanted to. What if I was like, I will? You can only release it if you put that out as a clip of me just sitting here, my Bartlett for America shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But this
So
is
anyways, you
actually
were saying.
no, of course, and
Yeah.
this is actually, and we are going to get back to what your stage name would be because
Yes.
that's
Okay.
how we got on this. But this is actually what my solo show is about because I grew up and I'm actually debuting it April 4th at 7 p.m. at Symposium Bookstore here. Come out, people! I think I'm releasing this episode before then. Oh yeah, it's the weekend before. So I grew up. I idolized my dad. I always wanted to be him and everything like that. And then without giving spoilers away, and I'll tell you off mic, something happened in my family
Mhm.
that made me realize that I really don't want to be like him at all, and I want to be like my own person and stuff. So that's really growing up in like a Trump family. But actually, you bring up a good point, which is that like in high school, because I wanted to be like my dad so much, I would say I was a Republican, which like looking back, it was like I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking for myself. So I was like, oh, my dad's a Republican. I guess that's the right thing. So I'll just tell people I'm a Republican.
Well, those Republicans were also different than these.
That's true,
Republicans. Like I
too,
wouldn't
yeah.
say that like kindness was
Right.
anti-Republican then necessarily, but now it certainly is.
Right. 100%.
Like yeah, I mean I certainly feel like that. But hold on, I had some. So have you seen the Springsteen on Broadway, the show?
No. Well, Brian, I'm kind of afraid to tell you this on mic, but
Yes.
I really only know Born to Run, and that's it.
So no worries. I mean the song or the
Wow,
album?
this is
first
much
of
better
all?
than I thought it was going to go. I thought you were going to be the first person to walk off.
So well, Walk Off by the Bruce biography that's over there. Did you put that up because I was coming in?
I did not, but
Oh.
that is I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
But I love that you did.
That's the Peter Carlin one, I believe. That's
Have you-
probably the
have you read
second
that one?
best, of course.
Oh my
It's
God.
the second best biography. But yeah, I believe it is.
You're like, I have my ranking of the
So
top
much
10.
when I went to London when I was studying abroad, I brought that book and I was nervous to go. I was very
Yeah.
homesick as a boy, and I brought that book. I was nervous to go,
Sure.
even as a 21-year-old studying abroad. And I remember thinking, I'll read this book on the plane, and hopefully someone will talk to me about it, and I'll be able to.
Did they?
No, not at all. I sat next to. I went to London with my best friend Andrew. We were roommates all 4 years of college, including there. But I was sat next to on the plane there a guy who, 10 seconds in, asked me if I believed in God,
Oh no.
and then spent
oh,
a lot of the flight pacing back and forth.
stop.
And I was prepared to like. I literally had a whole plan in my head if this guy tried to like hijack the plane because he was talking about like religion and God and the afterlife
Oh
and was
my God.
walking around a bunch. And I was like, all right, today might be my day. It was a real life Mark Wahlberg. I was like, if I was here, it would have gone down different. Yeah.
Oh
And I
my-
literally was prepared. I would let a whole speech I was going to give, and I had a whole thing where I was going to stand up and I was going to say like, Andrew Gilbert is behind you. I was going to pretend I was an air marshal. Sorry. I was going to say I'm Air Marshal Brian Elberg. Air Marshal Andrew Gelblad is also on this plane. That would have been my friend's cue to stand up, and then we were going to have to fight this guy. Nothing happened. He just walked around
no,
for a
of,
while.
of
But
course. But I love that.
I was prepared with my Bruce book and my speech.
That was your weapon. Was the Bruce? book?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is. Oh my God, that's incredible. I just
yeah.
Oh my God. Well, first, because so many different emotions are going there.
Of course.
One, it's like the fear of going to that new place.
Yeah.
And all that, and then just like, ugh, I can't. What's so funny is like you're like, I hope somebody talks to me. I'm like, I can't talk to anybody on a plane. I can't do it, man.
Well, I oscillate back and forth between those two things of like being very friendly. Like I sort of want to be the guy who could talk to a stranger on a plane for hours and have like a really deep conversation.
Sure.
But then as soon as anyone says anything, I'm like, this is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's I just go back and forth between those, and yeah, I don't know. I wrestle with those parts of my identity, I guess. But yeah.
And just on that point too. It's like there is like, because I think the reason is it takes effort, right? And it's like because sometimes you have to like try to like keep the conversation going and things like that. But I also think like it depends a lot on just who that other person is.
Yeah.
Because obviously sometimes, and maybe I'm not saying anything significant, but like I think if the person is generous enough to like understand like where you're coming from and like if they don't want to talk or they do want to talk, you know what I mean? Like they're just self-aware.
Yeah.
That's such a huge thing with that too. It's just being self-aware.
I agree, and I also think fit, like people,
Yeah.
how people fit together in relationships and whatever else, and how a person fits with their job and their life more broadly is like an underappreciated part of, like, I don't know, our life in general.
100%.
Like I think right now I'm very well aligned. I'm a very good fit for sort of at least teaching, I would say. Like that may not be for everyone, but for my personality, I fit really well. I think that's very true in relationships also. And I always say this with kissing. This is one of my great theories. Some people, sometimes someone will say, oh, someone's a good kisser or bad, but I think that it's just all fit. Different people have different styles. It's how
Sure.
well they match up.
Yeah. And
It's
you
like
know,
the Victor Oladipo thing where he didn't play at all on the Magic. They traded him to the Thunder or something. He was an all-star the next year.
well, 100%.
Same player, different system. Sorry to
And
keep
no,
on you.
that's okay. The only thing I was going to add is that I think sometimes, I love that you're bringing it up because sometimes it's not accounted for and people will like blame themselves, like especially in relationships.
Right.
Like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that one person's bad, one person was good. Obviously, sometimes, right, that's the case. But,
Right.
it can just be that two people were not a fit and they brought out the best or the worst in each other. And that's just what it is.
Yeah.
All right, your stage name, and then we're going to...
Oh, fair enough. Oh, so I had one more. Let me work backwards to the Bruce thing I was going to
Yes,
tell you.
please.
In the Netflix show.
Yes.
So I think if you want to get to know Bruce, if you're interested, I would watch the Netflix show, which is him, one-man show, him and an acoustic guitar, telling stories and playing songs,
Oh, that's
talking
cool.
a lot about his parents.
I love that. Wow.
And there's a moment where he says that he has a recurring dream where he's at Giant Stadium or a rock show watching himself. And then he goes up and he sees his dad in the audience. And then he goes up and he puts his arm around his dad, and him and his dad had a terrible relationship.
Oh, really? Okay.
Terrible. His dad didn't want him. His dad was just not accepting of him playing music, and he would always, turn that goddamn guitar off, whatever, get that thing out of my house. Wasn't accepting of the long hair and the sort of slacker person that Bruce was at that age. So Bruce goes up to his dad in his dream and puts his arm around him and goes, "You see that guy on stage? That's how I see you."
Oh, my God.
And then he plays like an acoustic song about his dad, and everyone cries.
Wow.
And yeah. So that is a moment I think about. I think that's a lot of people's relationships with their dads generally. And I would say that if you want to get to know Bruce, dive in there and then watch some Live in Barcelona stuff on YouTube, and you'll get the full package.
100%. Now, what is it about Bruce specifically that you're drawn to?
I mean, now you said you were hoping we'd go an hour. I mean,
I know.
You don't have to say anything else.
We
I'll
haven't
be
even
here all
gotten to the
night.
low point yet.
Yeah.
So it's good.
What about him specifically? I mean, I think to adapt a line from You've Got Mail, my favorite movie.
Is it really?
It's one of them, yeah.
Okay.
Springsteen is the I Ching. Everything that is true and good about life is in his music, I believe. And I would say if I
Wow.
were to make it as succinct as I can for the show, he best encapsulates the desperation that many of us have to sort of break out of whatever life we were given and live some sort of big, fantastical, incredible life. Bite the fruits of life and let the juices drip from our chin. He encapsulates that with these sort of terror and tragedy, if you will, of not of that not always happening, right?
Yeah.
And then he also sort of covers it on the other end with the joy and the passion or whatever of living sort of a day-to-day of your day-to-day sort of existence. And it's all sort of it's all in there. And
Like
all
it's
of
all- yeah.
all of the doubt, the passion, the enthusiasm, the anxiety, the joy, hate, all of it is sort of encapsulated in all of those songs. And yeah, like even Born to Run, right? The one song I'll pick my lyric from there that I like,
please.
which is
Yeah.
this came on the other day on I don't listen to nothing but Born to Run, but it did come on the other day when I was working out or something, and one of the lines that jumped out at me for this in this particular listen was, I want to know if love is wild. I want to know if love is real. Now, to me, there's a lot of singers who write about love and stuff like that. But to me, that is such like an interesting idea of, he's not writing a love song, I love this person so much and they're perfect for me. He's like, I don't even know if this idea exists.
Yeah.
And I want to know if it's as big as I've always imagined it to be. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll just quote Bruce lyrics all
No,
day.
I know.
But yeah. And then, let me just do one more thing on Bruce, and then
No.
I also think he encapsulates a lot of what I
love.
in
I just
music.
want to point out, I love your sitting up. You're
Yeah,
like,
I mean, now it's like that meme, the video game meme, where I
where
back
it's like,
and,
let me sit up.
Oh
no, don't sit back.
no,
down.
I wasn't getting to sit up. I was just adjusting. But he's the best at all the different kinds of music I like. And then if he releases albums just acoustic on a guitar, and they're amazing, beautiful sort of singer-songwritery albums, and then he also will go on stage and do a 4-hour full band concert, horns, guitar solos, everything, and then he'll also just shred on guitar, and he does everything. He's a master of all the different facets.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
First off, I'm now officially a Bruce fan.
Yeah, I mean, take it for a spin.
Yeah, I'm kind of just like sitting here taking it all in. Again, as someone who like doesn't know Bruce, and like I knew like my aunt was into him, and I knew like, because my experience with him has always been like he's the boss, right? And like I never really kind of gave it a chance or really, but it just seems like very down to earth. Like it's very, I don't know. I can't even. Like it's just relatable. It can be relatable to everybody, which I guess is why. Yeah.
I mean, I certainly have found it, and he's from New Jersey, and so am I. My older brother got me into him, and my dad was sort of into him also.
So that makes sense.
That's sort of is how I discovered him, probably.
Yeah.
Because my brothers are much older than me.
What album would you recommend to start with if you haven't listened to any?
I would probably say I would go Born to Run if you wanted to start, because that's probably my favorite.
You just recommend Born to Run again?
Yeah. I would that album is probably, that's my favorite album, probably.
Favorite,
I would say that one, and then I would probably say, I mean, it sort of depends what you're into. It's, again, back to fit, right? I got to pick the best. I got to be a Bruce sommelier. I got to pick the best Bruce album to match
of course.
whatever the person's into.
And I'm trying to think, like, you know what's funny is, like, I don't know, and I don't want this to sound sad at all. Like, I do love music. I just don't know if, like, I've connected with an artist like that from a musician that much.
I mean, this is going to be, I don't even think of myself as bragging.
Yeah.
But I don't know many people who have connected to any artist as much as I've connected to Bruce, for better and for worse. I mean, we were talking about low points, talking about breakups. I saw Bruce after a breakup, whatever, a year ago, I don't know, whenever it was. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what I needed. I needed to go back to church. I needed to get salvation.
Well,
going.
That's what's really interesting is, like, one thing I'm really interested about is, like, because church and religion, it's just, I don't know, maybe just in my world, but it doesn't resonate with as many people as it did before, I don't think. And I don't know if that's like a fair thing to say.
Yeah, no, I've never been a religious person at all. It's never resonated with me at all.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm always fascinated where people go to find that now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people obviously like, you know, a lot of people say like they're spiritual and stuff like that. And it's so interesting that like so you go to Bruce for like, almost like a preacher almost for like sermon.
Yeah, and I mean that is sort of how, and I understand I guess the difference would be that I don't expect that Bruce is going to tell me about the afterlife or anything like that.
No,
but I
no,
do.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that if anyone knows, it's him. But I don't expect. But you know, I don't sort of give him like sincerely these otherworldly powers. But in terms of the feelings of like values, community.
Yeah.
And like sort of emotional release that people get, the feeling of being understood by, to some extent, a higher power.
Yeah.
I do think that those things I do deeply, like, sincerely 100% connect with.
And you know what I never understood, actually, just going back to our conversation about like dads and stuff, or my dad at least. Like, you would ask my dad and he'd be like, oh, Bruce is amazing. Mm-hmm. But like, he doesn't look at Bruce's music like that. You know, like it's almost like he doesn't connect to it on that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's so interesting. Like, you know, he would be like, because my dad's big thing is like, you know, like he's a guy, he hated the Super Bowl halftime show with Kendrick and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
So your dad's is like a meme almost.
Yeah, it's very like, you know, and it's just, he's not, I mean, he's from Long Island and it's like, you know, I try not to make the excuse he's from like that older generation now. But, you know, it's just like, and it's hard because like I used to think we were the same, but we're really not. And it's like that's something you learn, like, and it's something I explore in the show is like, but that's just something you learn as you get older. But but like he would almost just say that and feel that way, even though like he doesn't really connect with him. You know what I mean? Like my dad's a huge like Paul McCartney fan, but if you're telling me like he's not feeling those same things like when he listens to Paul McCartney, or maybe he is, and maybe I'm just being ignorant. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just literally sitting here thinking about what Bruce songs about his dad I'm going to send you when we're done.
Please do.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, that'd be really great.
But yes, I'm
just sobbing on the way home.
I'm
like, Brian.
Yeah. But
next time you see me, I have a tattoo of Bruce, just like
you have
on
an
my
Independence Day tattoo. But Bruce, I mean, not to take this emotional thing about your dad and bring it back to Bruce, but that is exactly what I'm going to do. What is it? He is he's a famously misunderstood artist with Born in the USA. I mean, Born in the USA gets played at every July 4th thing and party ever, and it's like not a patriotic song in that way that people think it is.
Sure.
It's a different vision of patriotism, I would say. But
it brings up like a really like just being understood as an artist, right? And how the work you're being put out there for, right? It brings up like I remember like Jim Gaffigan, I think this was during COVID, tweeted something. I think he tweeted like fuck Trump. I think this is a while ago during his first term. And I remember like I mean, that's big for Jim Gaffigan because like he does not curse. He's very famously very clean in his act, and so many people like unfollowed him, and he was like, I think I'm paraphrasing. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong, but he was like, I don't care like that if you're unfollowing me. If you're a fan of this guy, like no, then don't be a fan of mine. And it's funny because it's like here it is like people are interpreting, it's like it's like wholesome comedy because it's clean and stuff like that. And not to say you can't still connect with it. I just don't think they're connecting at that level.
Right.
Yeah.
But hopefully there's something for everyone. I mean, you can go see.
Right. Yeah.
You can go see Gaffigan and be like, oh, he talks about Hot Pockets, and my cousin used to eat Hot Pockets, and so that's funny.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
exactly.
That's totally fine.
Right. Which is
or you can connect with him on sort of this like deeper level where he's being, he's sort of, and I don't know his stuff as well, but sort of pointing out generally the way any great comedian does, sort of like the double standards or things that don't make sense in our world, in our broader world, right?
And I like that you said that too, because I want to check myself in that. It is okay to connect with someone at that service level. Like not everything needs to be like deeply entrenched in like childhood trauma or like anything like that. You know what I mean? Like it can just be, I like this guy's shirt, so.
Right, 100%. I think,
people have a right to that.
Yeah. I mean, I like sharing stuff with people who aren't necessarily going to get it on that level right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I took someone to see Bruce like a year ago, and she was like, yeah, no, I get it now. And I was like, thank you.
No,
you understand where I'm coming from.
100%, yeah.
And to go back to the thing about
Bruce?
We're going to get off. I mean,
No, it's okay. This is the Bruce episode.
Yeah, perfect.
This is a Bruce Springsteen podcast now.
That's it. I mean, there must be one of those. But if there isn't, I have a project for the ride home. But to go back to what you said about engaging everything, and like not everything has to be about childhood trauma. I always sort of my motto as far as mental health, to the extent that I have one, is it's of course it's okay not to be okay, but it's also okay to be okay. And I feel like we don't say that enough.
Yeah, that's a really good. Yeah,
it's like okay to just be doing all right.
Yes, because there is this idea. It's like I need to be like the idea of like being happy is like I need to be elated. I need to be.
Right.
Like jubilant, to use a douchey word, but like
no,
you know what I mean?
Good word.
I'm trying, man. We're in a bookstore.
You're
so.
You're a big deprecator.
I don't know that word means.
You put yourself. You put yourself down.
Yes. Yes. I do, and I preface too much. So that's something I'm trying to watch. Because I'm terrified of how people view me and stuff like that. I'm one of these people like I think everybody hates me, so I try being extra. Yeah, so I try being extra nice and like things like that. Like right now, I'm like, oh my god, I cut him off while I'm speaking. So that's in the back of my mind. As
I've been thinking the same thing that I cut you off.
Oh no, see, and that's not even.
We just won't talk. We both just don't talk for the rest of the show. Silent podcast. Nobody cuts each other off, and then we both leave thinking that we hate each other. That's a good episode.
People look. This episode's 6 hours, but it's not even. They're not talking for most of the time.
It's 6 hours of silence, and then you hear us hugging and saying that was fun.
And then Born to Run ends it. Brian, I want to hear your stage name, and then we promised the viewers we're going to get into the low point.
Right. Yeah. So my stage name probably would have been Michael. Either Michael Elberg, because Michael's my middle name.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or Michael. I thought about changing my. Well, I thought about making it some version of Michael Elberg, but then I thought Elberg's probably too Googleable. So then I wasn't sure what I was going to go with. Then my mom's maiden name and my grandparents who I was very close to, their last name was Carroll. So I wanted to have some combination of those names.
That's a good one.
Right?
Michael Carroll?
Yeah, I
like that a lot.
Maybe it's a little too... Yeah, and I guess... Yeah, I think that probably would have been it.
Yeah. It's way better than... No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, it's way better than Brian Elberg. No, Michael Carroll's a good one. I like the thought process behind it because it's also meaningful to you and stuff like that.
What would yours be?
I don't know. I think I could pass for an Eric. I think... You're
Why?
the first person to say no.
No.
Wow.
But I'm not saying no to the name.
No.
I'm saying no to... What does it mean I could pass for an Eric?
That's a really good question that I haven't thought about. And it's like, I think
Have you ever said that sentence before? I could pass for an Eric?
All the time.
And no one ever said, what does that mean?
No one has ever said this.
Okay.
No, so this is good, explaining. What does that mean? I guess, I could pass for an Eric. I don't know what it means on... Talk about not everything has to be that deeper level. But no, I don't know what it means, why I kind of gravitate towards that name. Maybe it's the different Erics I know. Almost like how when people name babies, not that any of us have kids, either of us have kids, but you just associate certain things with Erics and stuff you've known in the past. I don't know. I guess in my mind, Eric's a nice guy, chill.
Is there a specific Eric
that comes to mind? Yeah. No, I know. Well, there was one Eric that was in my friend's college band, and this is actually shout out to them. They're the Humble Cheaters. Their music's excellent.
That's a good name. Good
great name. They have a song that I'm obsessed with. I gotta find the name of it, but no, it's like pre-shot or something. I can't pronounce it, so I couldn't even tell you what it is. But the Humble Cheaters, look them up. And I remember specifically that I was doing improv in college, and Eric came to a show. I wasn't direct friends with Eric. I was direct friends with Rob, who was in his band. And Eric came to the show just to check out art and just to be supportive for a live audience. And that meant so much to me at that stage where I was I had to force people to come to my crappy college improv show.
Yeah.
And Eric was just yeah, man, I'm here to check it out. And that was really cool. So
and
maybe it's him.
And so you think do you think it is him?
I don't think it's him. I do think this is so fascinating, and I love that we're talking about this because I've never dived deep into this. But I do think I must associate Eric, and I don't know why. Truthfully, maybe it is with him. Maybe it's through some other, something else. But I do associate Eric with just coolness and Eric.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Also, too, it's I guess based on the Erics I've known, I think I could pass for Eric.
Right, and your dad might think it's a Trump thing, so then you got
and then it's all 100%.
Yeah, I mean, he assumes it's Eric Trump. It's no Eric who came to my improv show in 2007, and
probably the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
of Eric Trump, but no, as far as my stage name goes, I don't know. I was one of those I love the story of Donald Glover putting in for how he chose his rap name, and it's just Childish Gambino. He was boom, I would go with that. So I played around with that a few times, but I never got one I liked. And I don't know. There is something I think
you played around with the Wu-Tang name generator.
No, not the Wu-Tang.
Isn't that where his is from?
That's where his is from. Sorry, thank you.
There was a chance your stage name was almost Childish Gambino. Imagine buying tickets to see someone with to see Childish Gambino, and then you come out on stage
and it's jokes about being an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, exactly. People wow. Childish Gambino, alternate title Eric.
This man's a wild card.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It would almost be oh my God. It'd be Neil Brennan, 3 mics. At this mic, I'm Childish Gambino, and at this mic, I'm Eric, and at this mic, I'm Matt Petta.
He didn't say one curse word. You would think with a name like that, he would at least. Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah. So I didn't, but it's so good. I will say I do think there's something. I do like the honesty of being on stage with your real name.
Yeah.
I think just from a professional aspect, I wish I would have changed it. But
right. That's what I think too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I like that people know me, and it's. I got to stick with it now because I can't be not Matt Penna comedy.
Right.
It's That's what it is on social.
And we got into this conversation because you asked if at work students and teachers know I do comedy.
Yeah.
Which they do. I don't hide it. They just kids look to their teachers up, and other staff members, I guess, have found it. And other staff members have come see me do comedy, which is fine. And then students find me on Instagram at Brian Elberg, and they say, and the ones who have told me they found me, typically say I am funnier than they expected, which I feel like is the highest compliment that
100%
I could get.
Yes, absolutely.
From a high schooler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, absolutely. Are you funny in class with the kids?
I try to be.
Okay.
I do a lot. A lot of my humor as a teacher is me trolling.
Okay.
And so, like, for example, two of my favorite students, not that I have favorites, sorry, let's do another take there. Two students who I happen to joke around with and laugh a lot with more than other kids. They're twins, and it was their birthday 2 days ago.
Okay.
And I have like a calendar in my room that has kids' birthdays, and they happen to share the same birthday as John Hamm and Chuck Norris.
Oh, get out. Wow.
So I just put on my slides that day. I was like, guys, you have some really special birthdays today.
That's really funny.
And then I flipped to the next slide. It was John Hamm and Chuck Norris. And I was like, these are really two important people. We got to just make sure we're respecting them today. And so like jokes like that where it's like I'm just kind of being a troll.
Did it get a big laugh?
It did, but it got kind of like a no, I guess, if I'm pausing for this long. It didn't get a big laugh, but it got a fun reaction.
That's good.
Yeah.
Is it, I think I know the answer, but is it worse bombing on stage or in front of class?
Way worse on stage because in class, well, my job isn't to be funny. And they'll kind of hit me with, oh, you think you're funny, but you're not, whatever. And I can kind of go back at them, and I do a lot of jokes with them where I pretend that I'll be like, oh, I posted a video yesterday, and a lot of people commented it was cringe. But I don't know if you guys know, but cringe means really cool and funny. Jokes like that. And I'm like, and so like the students
love it.
Yeah, and so the students think, like the smartest students get that I'm making a joke.
Gotcha.
The sort of next level down is laughing at me.
I see.
Right? They're laughing at me thinking like, oh, this moron thinks that all of these comments that say cringe are compliments, right?
Yeah.
Or I used to do a thing where if they had their phones out in class, I would record fake TikToks on their phone, and I would just say like,
that's funny,
like silly, cringy
dude, I wish
phrases.
You were my math teacher.
And I would be like, what's up, TikTok? Stay Gucci out there. Like, what's up to all my followers on the For You page? Like, we're coming at you today in geometry with some like stupid hard problems. You don't even know. The kids are OD tight, and it's like I'm just using phrases that like. I'm pretending I think I'm being sincerely cool.
Yes,
And so like jokes like that, some kids get. Some kids are in on the joke. Some kids think I'm just sincerely being cringy.
Yeah, they're like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which it's the same thing in stand-up. Not everybody's in your audience, and that's okay.
But in stand-up, the expectation is
that you are for
that I should be funny. That I'm not really. If I'm not being funny on some level to an audience, it's like then I shouldn't be saying anything.
Do you censor what you put out on social media because you're a teacher?
Minimally.
Okay.
I do, in that I try. All right, like I have one joke that I did at some point where the joke was about how there are more teachers that have hooked up with students than you would expect there to be. And then the joke I did at the time was I hooked up with the same number of students as a high school teacher that I did when I was in high school.
Okay.
Which is one. And that obviously is a lie, right?
Yeah,
and the joke there is that I'm being sarcastic. But that is a joke I would never put out online.
Of course.
Because it's like, this is just...
You want us to cut it from here?
You can keep it in there because there's like the context of me saying I'm about to say a thing that's not true.
Okay, sure.
But I was always nervous about that getting clipped.
Yeah.
Like that getting clipped as a joke.
Sure.
And it's like, and then that's out there, and there's just a video of their math teacher saying that. It's like, and whatever. But
But what I would also say too, in defense of that, is like I understand the joke. I also don't think that that's emblematic of your act, because I've seen your act, and it's very like it's a good joke, and that's not what I'm saying. But what I love about your act is like you let us into who you are.
Oh, thank you.
And of course, which I think is what any good stand-up should do. Like, and you obviously do it on stage. So I also like. I'm just trying to say, like, it's not like you're that kind of comedian where it's also like you're just making stuff up. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
And that joke, I cut from the act for a reason.
Yeah,
Not even
exactly.
because I think it's inappropriate, because I don't
Yeah.
think it's a very good joke.
Sure.
But that was just the first thing that came to mind as something I'd
of
censor.
course. Yeah.
And what I try to do in my act is what I hope people take away on some level is that I am a teacher and I do sincerely love that job.
Yeah.
I'm not, and there's some critical mass of teacher comedy that is like, here's the list of things I hate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, oh, the kids are dumb and this person's dumb and I
Yeah.
hate this and that. And maybe those are sprinkled in. But it's like, I hope people don't come away from watching me do stand-up being like, here's a guy who teaches all day and then shits on the job.
No,
when
and
he goes home.
that's not what you walk away from
Yeah.
at all. And can I? You have my favorite on-stage opener. That it's one of my favorites. Can I share it?
Sure.
Brian gets up on stage and he says, I don't even care if this goes well. I'm a teacher during the day, so it's just nice to talk to a quiet group of people. And it killed. First time I heard that, I was it still makes me laugh. It's like one of my favorite opening jokes.
Oh, thank you.
And it's like tells us so much about you, and it also in a way like puts the audience at ease because it's like such a well-constructed joke that I think like the good thing obviously is like with an opening joke, it's like you want the audience to be like, okay, we're in like a good pilot's hands almost, right? It's like
Right.
if you're piloting a plane, and that immediately does that, and we're in.
Oh.
It's just so good.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I started doing that at Mike's when everyone would bomb.
Really?
And then
so that was the origin of it.
Well, yeah, because it was just like, I don't even care if I also bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's been bombing, and open mics, everyone bombs, including me all the time. Like, this is what but it was, yeah, like, I don't even care if I also bomb.
Yeah.
This is not the worst thing that can happen when you try to speak to people.
That's incredible, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
So we've kept the people waiting long enough.
All right, got it.
If they're still with us. I want to get into your low point today.
Okay.
And you sent me a few options over
Yeah.
Instagram. So if it's okay, I'd like to pass it off to you to let me know what you would like to talk about.
I could talk about any one of them. We started talking about when I was studying abroad in London.
Yeah, let's go
before.
back to that.
We could talk about that. We could talk about other stuff in college. Most of the low points are in college.
Which yeah.
Even though I reflect very positively on college as a whole, but I think it's just such an emotional time.
It's such formative years. And we had Jamel Sirleaf,
Yeah.
who's another great comedian on, and his low point as well was in college and all throughout school, really. But what's interesting about college is it's this period in your life where, for a lot of people, it's the first time you're really on your own, and you're kind of thrown into this 4 years where you have the expected pressure of you need to get good grade. You have a job, quote unquote, which is, well, I don't even know if quote unquote, you have a job, which is that you need to excel in school enough so that you can provide for yourself when you get out of college, which is a lot of pressure to start. And also, too, it's like you don't know who you are.
Right.
And you're figuring that out. And a lot of the times it's so cringy. And I said this to Dave Colombo, who was on the podcast as well. What's good is, like, if you're looking back at that period at how cringy you are, and I'm projecting, I'm speaking about myself. If you're looking back at the person you were 5 years ago and you're cringing, that's a good sign of growth.
Right.
Which I try to always keep in mind when I look in that period. But tell us
Right.
more. Well, where'd you go to school?
I went to Boston University.
Oh, you went to school in Boston?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Dude, I think Jamel went there too, or someone else on the pod
Yeah, I
went
think
there.
you did. Yeah, I think you did.
Oh, very cool. So you went,
Um,
and that's more of like a city feel campus, right?
Yeah, very much. It doesn't feel like a campus that much
All right,
at
just
all.
checking the
Oh, yeah,
time.
check away.
All right, we're doing great.
We're
Go
doing-
ahead.
oh, great.
Yeah.
That's like one step above doing.
I know. I'm sorry. I know.
No
you know,
worries.
it's like
No.
the problem with like self-producing it because
Yeah,
like
of
people
course.
might see on the video too. I'm just checking to make sure the cameras
Yeah,
are running.
Of
I'm like
course, yeah.
also producing this while
Yeah,
doing it. but
no, I was just I'm just giving you a
no,
time. But
I know.
yeah, it's like 18,000 person school, and it is like it doesn't feel like a campus, and like there's not like a big quad. You know,
Right.
there's nothing like that. It's just this kind of Commonwealth Avenue from like Beacon Street, the intersection of those two, then further up into like Alston is basically like the campus.
Gotcha.
And like every building sort of in that stretch is Boston University's campus.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you get to Boston University.
Yeah.
Did you always want to be a teacher?
No, I didn't really want to be a teacher until I started teaching.
Wow. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went into school. What were you studying?
I studied political science,
Okay.
which a lot of
gotcha.
people say is the hardest major.
At BU
No,
or
it's
just
not.
in general?
It's the easiest major
Oh, no.
generally. I
just
was
like-
being deprecating. Yeah, self-deprecating. But it. So I studied that, and I thought about going into teaching when I was at BU. I took a class at the School of Education, and at the School of Education, it was a class where there was like hours of lecture, and we talked a lot about like theories and John Dewey and all these sort of educational philosophers, and we did 1 day a week of student teaching. And I like loved the student teaching, and I like couldn't
nice.
stand everything else.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I can't take any more classes about teaching. So what I decided to do is I applied for Teach for America.
Oh,
And then I
nice. I had
did,
a friend who did that as well.
yeah, where did they do it?
That's a great question, and I wish I could remember.
Oh well,
I
no
can't.
worries. I did it.
I know.
I'll talk more about myself. I did it. I did it here in New York, in the North Bronx.
Okay, gotcha.
And yeah, so I was placed here, and I moved here.
You did it during the summer?
No, so Teach for America, you just are a full year. You're just a full teacher at the school.
Mm-hmm.
All that Teach for America really does is they pay for your grad school
Mm-hmm.
to get your master's, and then they also help you get a job. They basically guarantee you'll be able to get a job, and they sort of help you with the certification process.
Oh, gotcha. So this was after
After
your
college.
4 year?
Yeah,
Okay,
after
gotcha,
college. Then
gotcha.
when I was straight out of college, I graduated in May, and then I started teaching in
That's September.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And you went to the North Bronx?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. So you're in college. You're
Mhm.
studying political science.
Mhm.
Sounds like you're not really. You don't have like a full direction on where you want to go.
No.
So take us through. Was it like? Did you feel like isolated or?
I wouldn't say that I felt isolated, because I look back on college very fondly. I had a
Mhm.
very great group of friends who was still in many ways like my core
Sure.
group. I had the same roommate for all 4 years. Andrew.
That's great.
I mean,
yeah.
I know that we're talking low points, but I sincerely say the high point of my life probably is I officiated Andrew's wedding a couple years ago to
that's
his
amazing.
wife, Bianca, who
Yeah.
Andrew and I lived together. Bianca was our neighbor sophomore year of college.
Stop.
She became our friend, and then they started dating our senior year.
Yeah.
They dated for like about 5-6 years, and then they got married after that.
And so you got to sort of like see that relationship bloom
Yeah.
and stuff. That's
And
incredible.
so, yeah, I officiated the wedding, and it was incredible.
That's great too, because you also get time.
Yeah, people were saying, "Are you gonna make clips and put this on?" Yeah, but I, and trust me, I have thought about it. I have not done it yet. If you ever see a clip on my Instagram of Andrew and Bianca's wedding, just know that things in comedy are not going the way that I want them to go. But there were some good jokes in there, if I do say so myself.
I'm sure.
And yeah, so I would say like early on, I would say like one of the low points I told you about, which I don't mind talking about. Early on in college, freshman year,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't drink at all in high school.
Okay.
At all. I was like very much, if I can show you a picture on my phone later, but I like was a senior in high school and a freshman in college, and I looked like I was 12 or 13 years old.
Okay.
I was one of those kids. I had no facial hair. I had
Sure.
a buzz cut. I still had like baby fat. I was just like looked
Yeah.
like a child.
Sure.
And I was sort of had like a goody two shoes-ness about me that like not even in like what's her name from Election? Tracy Flick?
Not sure.
I guess like she's sort of like an ambitious goody two shoes in a sense, and then I guess she breaks some rules at the end of the movie. So maybe that's not a good analogy. But my point is, I wasn't like a goody two shoes and like I'm gonna get into an Ivy League school by following all the rules. I was a goody
Yeah.
two shoes like a child is.
Oh,
like-
really?
Like, I mean, my mom will tell this story from time to time, but I think I was like in the 7th or 8th grade, and I said to my mom like sincerely, "Did you know that there are kids who get homework and they just don't do it?"
Stop it.
And she
Brian.
was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "They know they haven't." And they don't. It was like me doing like I think back of this as me having like the cadence of doing like bad stand up and being like, it's not that they don't know it was assigned. They have a planner. I see them write it down in the planner, and then they don't do it. And so
Yeah.
that was sort of my like attitude for good chunks of high school, was like, oh, if someone tells me to do something, I'll do it. I was very much just like a rule follower
Yeah.
in that whole way. And then early on in college, I guess, yeah, and then early on in college, so then I get to college, right, and people are just like drinking a bunch, no idea how to handle it, sort of like classic out of a cautionary tale.
Sure.
A kid who goes to college, doesn't know what he's doing, drinks too much, blacks out.
Oh no.
And I mean, I was fine in the end, but I did.
Wait. So
Yeah.
take us back to that. So was that your first night experience with alcohol?
No, probably like my 4th.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. So very early on.
I think so. Maybe single digits, probably.
So now you had alcohol for the first time like freshman year of college.
Yeah.
And so
Or the summer before, but the first time I really drank was then, yeah.
was then okay.
Yeah.
So now was it like the social pressure that you were just like
Not even social pressure. I was
Yeah.
excited to do it. It
oh
was
you
sort
wanted
of
to
like,
try it? Yeah.
I felt like I was like, oh, I followed all those rules then, but now I can be sort of like, I can like cut loose. And I didn't even know like when I was in high school and they would talk about like the ills of drinking, I was so far removed from that that I didn't even. They might as well have been teaching me how to like land a rover on Mars. I was like, I don't even get invited to parties. So like, I am very far removed from like what happens when I drink too much.
Sure. So you didn't even like think about it.
Didn't even think about it.
Wow.
Like it didn't occur to me. Like, this may be dumb, but it didn't even occur to me that it like was a bad idea.
No, but that makes sense.
Right.
You didn't know people didn't do homework.
Yeah, exactly. And then by the end of high school, I wasn't reading all the Dostoevsky they were trying to make me read.
Out.
But
you're like, I only read 3/4 of the book.
Exactly. But yeah, I was just like such a rule follower, and then I went to college, and there are two things I associate with happening early in college. One is that I drank way too much one night and I peed on my friend's floor, and then the second is there was another kid from my high school friend group who went to BU.
Okay.
And he, a bunch of the other kids who I knew in high school, including including other kids that I like played basketball with, went to visit him, and they didn't tell me, and I just like saw them, and it was one of those again like goody two shoes being like, hey, oh great, you guys are here.
Oh no! So you were just like happy to see them. You didn't even
at first, and then like it was only I don't remember when I actually realized this, and I was like, oh, they like there was a conversation about whether or not to tell me that they were here. Which was I think we were talking about before, both of us share the insecurity of wondering if everyone hates us.
Yeah, that's like your worst nightmare.
Yeah, it's like sincerely my worst.
Well, especially because like, and again, I feel like we're the same in that at that age, we didn't have the self-confidence or the self-esteem to like be like, it's okay that these people don't like me. I'm still like whatever. So, oh my God, that must have crushed you when you realized that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't fun. Like, it was.
Yeah.
That one, I don't even think back as. I honestly was so naive at the time that I don't even look back. Like, I don't remember being incredibly depressed after that happened. It's more when I think back on it, I'm like, oh, I think that was pretty formative in a way I didn't realize at the time.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was your friend group from high school that had done that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like continue to hang out with them after like summer?
No, not really.
Summer?
We were sort of distant already. Like we weren't. Okay. My friends in high school were all fine, but we weren't a group with the exception of like one person. We weren't a group that was like we're gonna be pals forever. Okay. I mean, I sort of had that sense even in high school.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opposite in that way because I had my friends in high school, and then we were kind of like that's the group I'm doing the fantasy baseball draft with tomorrow, and then like my college friends I really just lost touch with after college.
Oh, I guess most people kind of go one way or the other.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like it's interesting that you said that it impacted you in a way that you didn't even realize at that time,
right?
Unless you're looking back.
Right.
Can you talk like more about that?
Sure, because I think that the feeling of I'm very much someone who my fear is people don't like me. That's a fear that I have. I think most people who go into comedy probably have that fear, right? Yeah. I think that honestly a lot of the stuff I do and a lot of the stuff probably a lot of people do is wanting to be liked, right? So like I will text you when I leave here today and tell you that I had a great time, which is true. But I'm doing it because it's the truth, but I'm also doing it to confirm that you also had a good time.
And you know what I'm going to do because I feel the same way? I'm going to like that message.
Boom.
And then I'm going to say, it was a pleasure having you. Also because it's true, but also because I'm going to give you that validation.
Right, exactly.
And I'm telling you it's okay to just like that message because if I'm in your boat, I would be like, I got to write back. I got to be the last one to respond.
I think in that case, I would be fine just liking it because I already said I had a great time. Like, I don't need to one-up you.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I need to know we both had a great time.
What's so funny is like, you're in a better place than me because I'd be like, I have this fear and it adds to it where it's like, I text the most in my guy's friend group chat. And I have to react to every message that's sent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like, for example, we have our fantasy baseball draft tomorrow, and it's like I hearted, hot, exclamation point, like almost every message in the chat, just because, like, I don't know why that is.
Is it because it's now? What would happen if you didn't do that?
I would. That's a really good question. I guess in that moment, I'm like, I feel it. A lot of times, I feel an obligation to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like, if you text me, I feel obligated that I need to get back to you. Unless I just genuinely like forget about it. If I did not respond to it, I would feel bad because I would think about how that person is probably like, oh, I sent this and nobody laughed at it,
Right.
which is more, I'm realizing, about my fear
Right.
that like I send something and someone, yeah,
You're projecting your
projecting.
fear onto them.
yeah.
That's something I do a lot too. I'm trying to get better at that.
Do you, going back to the low point there, so you had this moment where you see your people from high school.
Mhm.
They're not talking to you. Did you have a friend group at BU like freshman year?
Almost immediately, and I think one of the so I don't remember the exact timeline of all these different things happening, but my friend group at BU, I became very close with Andrew, my roommate, right away.
Okay,
We are the story of us we met on a website called uroomsurf.com,
nice.
which was a website. I'm sure that now there's like Facebook groups and Instagram
Sure,
things and other
yeah.
ways to do it, but it was a website designed. It was kind of like a dating app, but for roommates, and the whole goal was just like you don't want to get someone crazy,
Yeah.
right? So we decided to we like met on there. We both liked video games and sports,
Hell
and
yeah.
we both
Man stuff.
yeah, and we both I could tell he wasn't like overly like aggro. He didn't have one of those profiles like we're gonna get fucked up every night and we're gonna
Yeah.
I mean, like to show you how not aggro we were. Andrew and I dated. We lived together for 4 years. We lived together for 4 years. We did not sexile each other one time for 4 years.
You were just if somebody was having sex, the other guy was in the room with us.
that was not the problem. We in fairness, our senior year he had a girlfriend, so did I. We had an apartment we shared with different rooms, but we lived in the same room for 3 years and we never did that.
Just out of respect for the other person.
No, because we weren't bringing any women back. I would have loved to have done that to him ever, and he would have enjoyed doing it to me. I'm sure. It wasn't out of respect.
I'm like,
It was out of how pathetic we were. Yeah.
what video games are you guys playing?
We played a lot of Madden. We played a lot of FIFA.
Nice.
We
FIFA was like
played
the
a lot
classic
of
college one. Yeah.
big time. FIFA 2014. They had lounge mode. Lounge mode was great. You
What
know
is that
lounge
one?
mode? You
No,
know about lounge
no.
mode? So me, Rob Polito, Colton Kirshner, and Andrew Gelblatt, we had a lounge mode we had where you had like a profile on the system. And you could all log your profiles in, and it like kept stats. So it kept stats. You could like look up and be like, when Brian plays Rob Polito, their record is this.
Oh,
and
man.
the average goals is this, and the average goals against.
Stop.
And so we would just play all the time.
That's amazing.
And just, yeah, I mean, it was awesome.
Whenever you have the stats to back it,
Yeah.
it's like so. Oh my god.
And people would be like, there'd be like a lot of trash talk, and there'd be a lot of, oh, I'm better than you, but then but then he's better than you, but then you're better than me. So there was a lot of that stuff.
That's really. Did you guys ever do like any tournaments?
All
or
the
anything?
time,
That's
yeah.
so
I mean,
fun.
so Andrew and I did that right away, and I will always say that we became great. Like we were friends right away. We had similar senses of humor. We both loved Seinfeld. We both were like pretty sarcastic and just like both committed to every bit.
Mhm.
And I think of us being, there are two stories I think from like the first 2 weeks of college, my freshman year. Was one of them, I just randomly on a whim was like, hey, do you think I could put on every T-shirt I own at one time?
Stop it.
And so there's a picture on Facebook of me wearing every T-shirt, and me and Andrew just took it on like our computer, just with our arms around each other, and me looking like I'm 400 pounds because I'm wearing every T-shirt. And just, I remember how hard we were laughing, me just doing that, and us
Yeah.
just doing it together. And just to be like, there are a lot of people in the world who would not be enjoying this bit. And for us, that was huge. And then probably the second week of school, his grandmother called him.
Okay.
And his grandmother, I come into the room, he's on the phone. His grandmother's on the phone with him forever. And Andrew goes, oh, my God, my grandma's the worst. You know, she's talking to me about this, that, and the other thing. She was lecturing him about Four Locos and online poker. And he says to me at the end of the conversation, what do you do when your grandmother calls you and just lectures you? Or he said, does your grandmother ever call you and just lecture you like that for a long time? And I said, no, all my grandparents are dead. So no, that doesn't happen. And we both just had this awkward pause and then started laughing really hard. And it was like, to me, I do think of that as like a hinge moment of like, he could have been like, oh, geez, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Or he could have laughed. And by choosing to laugh and like lean into that, it was like, oh, this is my kind of guy. We can laugh about anything.
Exactly.
Right?
He understood you in that moment.
And
through
so
that.
we became great friends. And then he's always been really great about being friendly and making friends with other people. So,
Oh, isn't that great when you can just coast?
so then he basically had this whole other friend group that he brought me into.
Gotcha.
And they sort of like accepted me right away. And I sort of all like them right away, probably because I was like, oh, I didn't have super close friends in high school.
Right.
Now I feel like I'm fitting into a group. And then I embarrassed myself drinking too much. And then I was like, oh, I blew it. You know?
Well, can you take us through that night? What happened?
Sure. Gladly. Well, I'll give you some preface to the night, which is I liked this group immediately, but I found in retrospect some of them did not like me immediately because I do a lot of. Well, sometimes people don't like me right away because they think I'm more aggro than I actually am, I think, because I do a lot of. My theory is that I do a lot of faux bragging.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, I will pretend I'm, like, the best at something, or I'll pretend I'm, like, amazing. And to me, the joke is, like, obviously I'm pretending that I am, like, in incredible shape. Like, that's the joke. You
It's
know what I
almost
mean?
like how your students, some of them won't get the joke that you're doing, like the
Right.
TikTok thing. Yeah.
Right. So, like, I remember doing a joke about how I was, like, literally a joke about how I was starting to lift in college and my body was like a sculpture that I was like, and to me, I was like, obviously this is like the douchiest thing a person could say.
Right.
So I'm saying it, but if I look back, we're all, like, I would also hate that guy. We're all
Yes,
insecure
but-
college kids and this guy comes in describing these things, I would be like, oh, this guy sucks. And so, I mean, this is a quick tangent, but the similar thing still happens at work where we had a meeting earlier this year about classroom management styles, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's like this Polish woman, Margaret, and she's a teacher I work with. She's great, and we were partners, and we had just a normal conversation. And then they said, what strategies did you guys talk about in your groups? And I said, Margaret and I both believe that on the first day of school, you should fight the toughest student to assert dominance.
Wait, you said this
In a meeting. In a meeting, I said that. And I remember, like, 2 people laughing and other people being like, oof. And me thinking, to me, saying woof is the craziest reaction ever because, like, either one of 2 things are true. Either you think I'm serious, in which case you should fire me because I'm saying sincerely I'm going to fight a student. And then the other thing that is possible is that you know I'm making a joke, so you know I'm not going to do it.
Right.
But, like, being, like, offended to me in that particular case makes no sense.
How did Margaret take it?
Margaret is a big fan of what I'm
Love
bringing to the
that.
table.
Oh,
Margaret,
fantastic.
yeah. Margaret loved it. So anyways, to go back, so this friend group I don't think liked me all right away. And then that night, it was the night of the BU-BC hockey game, which is kind of the Duke, North Carolina of
Northeast hockey,
New
right?
England of New England hockey.
Of
yes.
New England hockey.
Yes.
And it was BU and who?
BU-BC. Big
BUBC.
game.
Okay.
And so my friends and I like had a beer too, went to the game.
This is your 4th night in college.
Not my 4th night,
Oh,
but probably
4th
like my
night.
4th time drinking.
Gotcha.
It's
okay.
early. It's pre-Thanksgiving, I believe.
Okay.
And then I remember just saying, so we had a couple drinks before the game. We then went to a friend's apartment afterwards. And then I like jokingly said, I'm going to drink until I don't remember this game because we lost. We got slaughtered. And I said it not realizing like what I was putting myself in like, I don't even think I'd maybe been hungover, but not really.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was putting myself in position to do. So I literally woke up, like I don't remember much else of the rest of the night, other than I was starting to get drunk. Woke up the next day. Andrew was asleep in our room. I remember that the shower on our floor wasn't working, so I went to take a shower, and then I went to our other friend's room. And then Andrew came in, and he was like mad at me. And I was like,
man.
why are you mad at me? And he was like, and he told me, I was like, oh, you peed on their floor. I had to like take care of you. You were, basically an embarrassment,
Oh, God.
right? And it was horrible. And so like, even now as I'm saying it, I'm like starting to like sweat again. And
Yeah.
I felt terrible. And I think part of it was, there's like a few aspects of this. One, I heard someone say this recently that like, anytime someone like apologizes for anything, they like it just is like apologizing is like a manipulative thing. But I remember immediately just like apologizing to everyone the next day.
Yeah.
I felt terrible. And I probably felt on some level like I was like costing myself this friend group that I like.
Sure.
And I also just acted like an asshole.
And
Right? And I wanted to, you should apologize for that. You shouldn't just act in a way that is, abhorrent. And then just be like, well, that's me. It's a learning experience. Like, it can be a learning experience and also something you need to apologize for.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the worst fear because I feel like we share this again in that a lot of times you wonder, like, is this person mad at me? And do I have, like, are they mad at me over something I have no idea I did?
Right.
Because then it's like, if I have no idea they're mad at me, like, whatever, then maybe I'm acting in a way that is, like, making people mad at me.
Right.
Right? And, like, you have that situation where you literally black out. You don't remember anything. And, you know, it's funny because, like, when you first said peed on the floor, I think, I laughed, obviously.
Right.
But, like, being in that moment, some guy.
Of course.
And did you know the people in the room or not?
I knew them well. My friend Caroline, who's still one of my best friends,
Oh,
and
nice. Okay.
yeah.
So it's a happy ending.
I mean, relatively happy.
Sure.
I mean, happy in this. Like, I wish it didn't happen.
No, of course. Yeah.
But I guess to me, a happy ending implies that it was like started something useful, whereas I think that it probably would all be friends regardless.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess like I immediately apologized. I offered to like. I peed in her Uggs. I remember that was a big part of it.
Oh,
and
no.
I offered to buy her new shoes.
Okay.
And I was just like texting, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I hate myself. Whatever." I didn't hang out with that group for a while after that, and I didn't drink for a while after that. Also, I've been in one of those. I was almost like a basketball player who like that part of my life, drinking wise, was almost like a basketball player who like checks into the game and commits a flagrant foul and gets
And then
ejected
goes
on
back
like
out.
the first play, and they're like, "All right, you gave it a shot. Get out of here." Yeah. So that I just felt horrible. I like didn't leave my room all week. I mean, and for like weeks, I felt horrible. And even still, this is one of those memories that will still like randomly pop into my head.
Yeah.
And I will just think about on
my
occasion.
God.
And
Yeah.
I still feel guilty about it, even as I'm talking now. Yeah.
No, I
It's
know.
terrible.
And it's not great, but like sometimes I'll think back and I'll physically twitch.
Me too.
Okay, that makes me
too,
feel
yeah.
so much better.
I will
You have no
frequently
idea.
close my
Yeah.
eyes and just try to like if I blink hard enough, maybe this thing didn't happen.
Right, exactly. And you
Yeah.
know what's funny is like I'll be driving with my fiance in the, the passenger seat, and this is it's a little personal. I'll just be like, ah!
Yeah.
Like I'll make that noise, and she knows what that
Yeah.
means because we've been together so long. She's like,
Yeah.
all right, what are you thinking about?
Yeah.
And then I'll tell her,
Mhm.
and honestly, it makes me feel better. So
Yeah.
it's an advantage or a benefit to having
Yeah.
a partner who knows you that well.
Right.
But oh my God, and it's we talk about those cringy moments, like when you get drunk and black out. That's the scariest one because
Yeah.
like you just because I blacked out in college as well, maybe like once or twice, and I remember my friend said like I made out with someone that I don't even remember. And it's like
That rules.
I
No,
not
I'm kidding.
really,
I'm
not
kidding.
really. Obviously, like
Yeah.
consensual and everything, but I was like, it's just you have no idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
it's- Oh my
I know
God.
those roads.
No, I know.
Yeah.
So now you like it sounds like you found your way a little bit now with just
Yeah.
with alcohol specifically. Do you still drink?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was more of like a learning experience thing with.
Yeah, and it took me. So I mean, I still, it's. I've had moments later in life, never anything that bad, but I certainly have had moments where I've drank too much since then. I mean, it's and I think but it's not good. Like you shouldn't do it. It's not cool.
No. Yeah.
And I still have a thing, even if I have like 2 beers with a friend, I will do the thing where like, hey, I had a great time last night, whatever, and I. That neediness of being like, hey, I had fun, and part of it, I'm sure, is from that night of being like, I want to confirm everyone had a good time.
I am in
Yeah.
the same exact boat
And
with you.
I do
Yes.
it when I hang out totally sober, but it's especially even if I have a couple drinks with a friend,
Yeah.
where it's like, just because probably that feeling of loss of control, because I like to have control
Yes.
over my life and my emotions.
And my fiance gets that really bad because first off, I love when she gets drunk because she's
Yeah.
so funny and it's like whatever. But she wakes up the next day and constantly she's like, oh my God, what did I say? Did I say anything bad? And 99% of the time she didn't do anything. 1% of the time it's just like she has no filter. So I'm like,
Yeah.
but she's not like insulting anybody or whatever. But yeah, it's just like that. That's the thing with alcohol. And it's like truthfully, like I really don't drink anymore just because it's like I've had so many of those days where I've woken up that anxiety, that hangover.
Yeah.
And it's just
The
like
anxiety is the worst part.
Oh, it's that and simultaneously being hungover.
Yeah.
It's just like it's the worst spot to be in.
Well, I almost think that sometimes when you're hungover, this is not a healthy thought to have, which I recognize. But sometimes when I'm hungover, I think this is good for anxiety because it's almost like the first couple weeks of COVID. How were you the first couple weeks of COVID?
The first couple weeks?
First couple weeks. Give me maybe 2-3 weeks of COVID, maybe 4.
I remember fear.
Okay.
I was very scared because I didn't know what was going on. I was psyched because I was traveling for work at the time, so I got to stay at home.
Got it.
So that's kind of like where my...
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a theory that a lot of people with anxiety, not like diagnosable anxiety, but the feeling of feeling anxious sometimes, including myself, the first couple weeks of COVID were great because you, like, obviously terrible for the world, but but it was like, oh, I have a job to do at all times. My job is to stay inside because I frequently have a feeling now, my whole life, I have a feeling of like, how should I be maximizing this day, right?
Yeah.
Should I be going for a run? Should I be writing? I have this friend I haven't seen in a while. I got to see that friend.
Yes.
Should I be trying to schedule a date? Should I be trying to call my dad or whatever? What should I be doing to maximize my time? First 3 weeks of COVID, it's like, no. I have tasks to be doing all the time.
Yeah.
I need to be staying inside. I need to be washing my hands a lot. I need to be making sure that I'm not getting anyone sick. Right? And to me, being hungover sometimes feels, it's like, oh, I can't do anything.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. Well, also, too, because it's like the relief of just like, this is all I have to do. And it's very simple and straightforward. Whereas, like, I know you and I share this crazy thing we do in comedy, and there's so many. I get overwhelmed every day with the amount of stuff we have to do.
Right.
I had to, post podcast clips. I have to post on TikTok, write, stand up, then work on my solo show, produce the show here at the bookstore.
Right.
And to have that during COVID, which I know I said there was a lot of fear, but I did also have that too, where it was like kind of freeing in a way where it's like, okay, we can just, this doesn't have to be, but did you do Zoom shows?
Oh, many of them.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't do them very much. I was taking a break from comedy when COVID started.
Okay.
I went off to grad school for a year, and I was taking, because I'd done comedy in New York for a couple years before COVID.
Okay.
Maybe like a year or two. And then I was like, I don't know that I love this.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a community, which is why. Like, I didn't have friends in comedy. And I was dating someone at the time, and it was great. Like, we had a very nice relationship. So it was like, why? Oh, I did an open mic. Why would I get dinner with these people I don't know who are, like, going to be on the whole time? Or I could go home and see my girlfriend who I haven't seen.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was like, oh, I'll just do that. And so, like, that was all fine, but it ended. The result was that I was in comedy for years with no friends in comedy.
And it's such a difference. Sorry, I'm
no, you're right.
No, I was just gonna
Take
say
it.
it's like just because like one of my goals last year, not like everyone's like you should have goals, but like one of the things I wanted was like I wanted friends, and it's made such a difference. Like when I go to see you at a mic, I'm instantly like, all right, Brian's here. I can like, oh, dude, that means so much. So literally, because I'm like, oh, well, I think you hate me.
I have a question.
Anyway, what was your question?
So I have, remind me of that question in a second, but, and to me what's tough about it is like, oh, should I be trying to set up a hang? Should I be writing? Like all those things. But when you're hungover, COVID, you always have those jobs you can and should be doing. But my question to you was, and I'm not trying to butter your bread, my friend, but it's a two-parter. Are you aware of your sort of like reputation of like one of the kindest people in comedy?
Oh, that's really nice.
How do you feel about that as your reputation?
Oh man, that's really really nice. Here's my thing. I've heard that from
everyone?
No. Here's my thing with it. Honestly, is like this is so fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's miserable, and I suffer from depression, anxiety, and my biggest thing, I think they did this in like Ted Lasso, not to like copy from there, but like I don't want anyone to ever feel that way. So I do my best to be kind to people because it's also just the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all, but I will say there is a part of me that when I go home, I am kind of like a curmudgeon sometimes.
Really?
Where it's like, 100%, dude. And my poor fiance puts up with me when I have those bad days, and I get angry and whatever. So I just, she's always there for me, which I'm really blessed
about. So is
about.
she surprised when people say that how kind you are? Is she like,
no, she's definitely not surprised. But she does recognize that like there is this part of me that like because it's like the flip side of the same coin, right? Where it's like I am that way because I suffer from a lot of
Right.
like internal problems and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So one, it's like it's so nice to hear that because I really do try to be kind and to, to just and I try to fucking beef people up, man.
Right.
Because you
Me
know
too.
what? Yeah, because it's just like this is so hard. It's the hardest thing to do. And I just know that like me, so many of us go home and when we're alone we're like, the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck, like I suck, I'm whatever. I'm like the worst self-deprecating going back
Right.
to that. I do all of that internally and I don't want anyone to ever feel that way.
Right.
So but I really appreciate you saying that because I do work hard I don't want to say I work hard at it, but I do make a genuine effort to be nice to people and to always do that.
Yeah, I mean, at a mic, well, I have a couple things. At a mic a few weeks ago, you had to come out and tell us the mic was canceled.
Oh
and
God.
everyone leaving was like, literally was like, oh, at least we got to see Matt.
Oh, that's
that
so
brightened my day
Oh,
seeing
that's
Matt.
so
Which
nice.
is like, there's so few people in comedy that would have gotten
Yeah.
that reaction of like, oh, we just got news that was annoying. I mean, it wasn't terrible news, but it's annoying news.
Yeah.
But
That's
hey, we all got to see, and everyone was like, oh, we got to see Matt. That's
well,
nice.
it is, and it's real funny because like in the same way, I was like looking at the crowd. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Brian's here with
Oh,
like a
there
DT
you go.
Shankar, who's another wonderful comedian you guys should follow. That really made my night, dude. I really appreciate you saying that.
Oh.
What else you got for me? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I always try to. I do also try to beef people up, and because
Yeah.
sometimes they give it right back to you, and that's a little.
Yeah.
So when you say something nice, sometimes they say you too.
Oh, dude, you know it's and doesn't that
Yeah.
kills me. Yeah, it's great, especially if you say good set. Like if
Yeah.
someone like it and they're like, yeah, you too. I'm like. One of the funniest things, Sam Frank, who's another fantastic
Yeah.
comedian, texted me. I gave him a compliment because I had read like one of the poems he's published,
Yeah.
and like I'd read one of them, and it was fantastic. And he goes, thanks, man, that means a lot. I'd give you a compliment right back, but I'm afraid you're not. I'm afraid you're gonna think I'm not gonna mean it, so I'm gonna wait 2 weeks.
That's a funny bit. I like that. Yeah,
So it's pretty good.
that's
but,
funny.
dude. No, I really appreciate you saying that, dude. That really means a lot.
It's the truth.
Oh,
wait.
and there was a question I was gonna remember.
No, I was gonna. There was
for
a
a different one.
point. Sorry, I was. Well, the two-parter, which you kind of answered, was your reputation as the kindest man in comedy, and like, do you? I guess your answer is no, I think. But do you wish you had a different reputation? Like, do you wish
sure.
that when your name comes up, everyone was like, "That's the funniest guy. That guy kills every room." People do say you're funny, but it's like, do you wish they said that, or do you wish they said, or are you happy on some level or satisfied on some level that it is universally the
Yeah.
kindest man in comedy?
You know, that's a really great question.
Thank you.
Here's the reason I'm okay with it right now is this is my 4th full year doing comedy, full disclosure. I know I'm going to get better. I know I'm not at my full potential. If I was at my full potential and people were saying he's really nice and not like he's really funny, that would bother me. But I know I've still got a lot of growing to do. I've got a lot of stuff I want to do. And my biggest thing has always been just like I want to do good work and I want that to be like what I'm known for.
Mhm.
And I just know that my best work isn't out there yet, so I'm okay with it at this
Right.
stage.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I think
And people will, people want to be around kind people, and they want to be around
100%,
people
dude.
that are building them up, and they want to be around people who are making them feel good, rather than someone who is like a jerk, but whatever.
dude, 100%. And it's just like like the biggest thing I try to remember too is like everyone's on their own journey
Mhm.
in this. That's what I've been trying to stick with lately is because I found like a lot of times I get like very envious of I've spent too much time on social media. So
Everyone
I'm like,
does, yeah.
so I'm looking who's passed at this club, who's doing whatever, who's on the road doing stuff. And what I try to do now, I keep a little wins log. I keep my small wins. Like I was very fortunate. I just did the road with Gabe Malika. That was
Yeah.
a huge milestone for me.
That's
First time I
awesome.
did the road. So I was like, I wrote that in there. If I try a new joke at a mic, write that in there. So I try to focus on that rather than the other people kind of stuff. And that's just really nice.
When you did the road with Gabe, did you guys both make jokes that you look very similar? And
Yes,
you
we
were
do. We always, when Gabe and I
I
ever
would-
do a show together,
yeah.
we always bring it up.
I mean, you would have to.
We have
almost.
to. And
Yeah.
sometimes what's funny is like I opened for him at Soho Playhouse
Yeah.
one time, and I had a joke ready in the tank that was like, I'm here because I want a Gabe Malika lookalike contest,
Yes.
little short opener. And like Gabe said something like to that effect, but better. And I
Yeah.
was like, damn it, I got to open with something else. So I had to like write something quick backstage. But yeah, it is crazy how similar we do look alike. And what's funny is like we got into the comedy for the same reason, which is that we both saw Mike Birbiglia's My Girlfriend's Boyfriend,
Mhm.
and that's like what made us want to do this.
Oh, really?
See, we have like the same origin story. Which
I
is
don't
nice
know
too.
the Birbiglia back catalog. They're not back catalog. I don't know the catalog. I know
Dude,
him a
we
little
spoke
bit.
about Bruce. We're about
Yeah.
to talk about Bruce.
Let's do it. So why should I watch?
My Girlfriend's Boyfriend.
Mhm.
Oh, dude. It's one of my favorite things is like, and there's a comedian who actually pointed this out to me because I listed my 3 favorite comedians, and my
And who
top
are
3, it's Birbiglia, Pete Holmes, and Gary Goldman.
Yeah.
They're my top 3. I got to ask you, though, quick.
All right.
Who are your top 3?
Of all time?
Yeah.
George Carlin,
Oh, nice.
Louis, and maybe Goldman, maybe Seinfeld.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say Goldman over Seinfeld.
I'm a big Seinfeld. I know you mentioned Seinfeld the
Yeah.
show. I'm a big fan of Seinfeld as well, which I'm sure we'll get more into
Yeah.
off mic because
Yeah.
we could go 4 more hours about it.
Let's do it. Let's chop it up
yeah.
into something an hour long. I got nowhere to be.
Dude, I love it. We do have to be out of here by 10 though.
Oh, what time is it now?
What are we looking at? 9:30.
9:30. Oh,
Hell yeah.
wow, we're
Good
cruising.
brother. But you have school tomorrow too, right?
Who gives a
Oh,
shit?
you're the best.
What am I doing tomorrow? Second period, we're playing. The second period's an easy lesson. So
Oh,
whatever.
nice.
And I'm all first period. So
Oh, dude.
yeah.
Do you get to come in later because of that?
Yeah. Yes and no. Like I come in, I'm supposed to be there at 8:15. I usually
Sure.
get there around whatever time I lied about getting there earlier in the show. But I get there before first period starts, but I can get there like right at the last second.
Gotcha.
As
which
opposed
is
to if you're
also-
teaching, you got to get there early, make your copies, do all your stuff.
Right.
You know?
And that's what a great perk.
Oh, big time.
Do you have
this
that every year? Or this is
No,
your first
just this
year?
year. But I do make the schedules, so
Oh,
We'll
you
see
make
if
the
I-
schedule? Oh, that's
I'm
power.
on the team that makes the schedules. Yeah.
Oh my God. You have
So-
input. Is Margaret on that team?
No, I wish. Oh,
Oh,
my, be
damn,
still my heart.
that'd be-
Uh,
Oh my God, what were we talking about? Oh,
we were-
comedians.
Yeah, Birbiglia and
So
yeah.
someone pointed this out to me, which is that and it's true, I am a big fan of like vulnerable comedy.
Mhm.
And My Girlfriend's Boyfriend, when I watched it in middle school, and it's a story about how he met his wife, and it is this incredible journey that he takes you on. First of all, he's a storyteller like no one I've ever seen on stage, and what connects you with him is like he's oh my God, I'm trying to find like the right words to describe this, but you just become so enveloped in the story and the way he tells it, and his sense of humor is so distinct and his style. I know I'm not saying much, but I can't believe you've never seen My Girlfriend's Boyfriend.
Yeah, I never seen that one.
Dude, you gotta.
Where can I
Netflix.
watch it now?
It's on Netflix.
Oh, I
think.
got it.
Yeah, so I think his whole catalog is actually on Netflix
Because
too.
someone told me the other day that I would like him if I got into him more, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
said that I could sort of they were saying that I should watch more of his stuff.
Well, actually, in
Yeah.
the same way like that you talked about Bruce, like he does bring up these like universal themes. He talks about death and the old man in the pool. He
Mhm.
talks about love, having a kid, and like all these sort of like universal themes. And I mean, one, he's just so funny. That's the
Mhm.
top thing. And yeah, I get like I'm speechless just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I wish I could be more articulate in this moment.
No,
with
no worries.
recommending him to you.
But I like vulnerable comedy certainly also, and I like any stuff that's vulnerable and is unique. But I guess I'm not trying to shit on him because I don't know him well enough to do it. But my fear with him, I think the reason I haven't watched as much is because I worry that it's going to be vulnerable for the sake of being vulnerable.
Oh, that's
Does that make, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I I think that sometimes nowadays in all facets of life, people will allow setbacks and trauma, like you said, to sort of define them in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't need to. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, if you're a comedian and you're going to tell me about the time something terrible happened to you,
Yeah.
I'm here for it. But you need to give me something too. You know what I mean? You need to either make me
Yes.
laugh or
Yes,
why do I care about this?
No, 100%, and I agree with you. He definitely does that in the
Oh,
special, 100%. But I do, and I'm actually glad you're bringing this up because that's something I'm actively checking myself on the show I'm working on because there's a lot of like tough, dark stuff.
Yeah.
But your job at the end of the day as a comedian is to make it funny.
Right.
And that is something that I do think is kind of lost now in a certain sense.
Yeah, it can be funny. It doesn't have to be the funniest thing. I think it doesn't have to be the funniest thing, but the audience should leave with a sense of, I get why you told me that.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Like, who gives a shit? Like, this is why I
Yes.
give a shit, right?
And that's maybe a better way to say it in that you should like you should be telling this with the intent of having an intended impact on the audience.
Right.
Right? You should know what you want from the audience when you're saying it. And to your point, I think a lot of comics just go up and just kind of trauma dump.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Certainly.
I mean? Which is like, you know, again, it's an art, so it's, you know, I get that it's self-expression, but like I think you owe that to the audience, who is a lot of times paying to come see you, right? So, and that's the point, is like you want to feel connected in that audience.
Right.
And I think that intention is important, because then you're connecting with them in the way that you intended to, if that makes sense. I know I said intended a lot, but
and that is what when I think about even the stories I was telling you, and I don't mind telling, you know, whatever. I texted you a bunch of the low points, right? And
there were a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean we've all had many low points, and
Of
I
course.
don't mind talking about any of them. I in fact like it, if for no other reason than, like, even if a student of mine were to hear that once in college I got too drunk and peed on my friend's floor, it's like, yeah, that doesn't mean you should do it. Like, I'm telling you about
Yeah.
it. You know, but I'm just saying, I don't mind sharing the vulnerable stories, but there needs to be, just because, I don't know, I'm just repeating myself, but that's, I think, sometimes why I maybe pull back from some of that stuff is because it's like, yeah, no, I have done stuff that I'm not proud of, or I have stuff where I don't mind being vulnerable about my relationships with people in my family or whatever, but I'm not going to necessarily tell you unless there's a reason.
100%.
You know?
Like, is it for me or is it for the audience?
Right, exactly.
Which I think is, no, and that makes so much sense to me. And also, what a beautiful gift as a teacher that you are giving now, which is that you're literally telling students, if you're listening to this, it's like, yeah, I'm not proud of that, and I'm a flawed person.
Right.
Because so many times we look up to, like, our quote-unquote role models, our teachers, our parents, and stuff like that, and we think they're perfect, they live perfect lives.
Right.
And they haven't. And
Right.
that's okay. Like, and that's, I think when you realize that, too, that it's okay to not be, right? It's okay to be okay.
Right.
I know in a different sense than what we said, but I think that's so important.
Yeah. And I think tomorrow maybe I'll open my class with, hey, guys, we're going to talk about triangles in a second, but it's important for you to know, hey, it's important for you to know that once I drank too many PBRs and peed on my friend's floor. Okay? So you too can pee on a floor your freshman year of college and then eventually teach geometry, if that's your dream.
Brian, we always end by asking someone who's been through your situation before, and I know we talked a little bit about some different low points, but let's do the friends first, where if someone finds themselves in a similar situation where they see a group of friends from high school that they thought were friends and they're out with other people, like, what would you say to someone?
I would say to them the same. This is advice I give to teachers all the time, about, like, new teachers, where they're like,
Sure.
what do I do? Is it's like, beat the kids. No. The advice I give is everything that happens, like every action that another person takes, almost universally says more about them than it does about you, right? That's 100% true when you start teaching, right? Kids are going to be crazy, and kids could come in and be crazy because they could come in and be crazy because they had a bad day that morning and they had a fight with a family member or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. They could come in and they could just be in a terrible mood and get set off by something you said or whatever, or set off by something else that's going on in their life. And that doesn't mean that it was your fault that there was, like, something bad in your classroom, right? What it means your job is to basically create circumstances that mitigate those things from happening, right? If you're creating lessons, for example, that are fun and engaging, and you have a decent management of your classroom, those things will happen less often, right? I think the same thing is true about oftentimes a friend being a jerk, right? Or a friend, not that those people were even jerks in that story, but friends doing anything is like, for the most part, it will say more about them than it will about you and your job. Like, I guess what in that situation, your job is to keep that in mind and to sort of act accordingly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I still don't think that they weren't doing anything to me.
Yeah.
They were going to see their other friend who went to BU. They didn't tell me. It hurt my feelings.
Sure.
But they weren't trying to do that. They were trying to hang out with another person. In some ways, that rejection or any rejection is a gift in a sense. Because you'd rather be around people that want you around than people who are tolerating you.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly right. And I think about, like, 'cause some of the rejections that come to mind are like, and it's true. It's just at the end of the day, you want to be around people that you want to be with. So I could not have said that better. And then for anyone that's peed on a floor, No.
apologize a lot, and then try to be best friends with everyone for the rest of your life. That is, if you can be best friends with everyone that was in the room for the rest of your life, it will both lead to some of the best friendships you've ever had, and on some level, absolve you of some of the guilt that you felt. You need to officiate one person's wedding that was there. That's the only way you can cleanse your conscience if you pee on a floor, is the person that you peed next to. You need to officiate their wedding. And if you don't do that, then you can go fuck yourself. But yeah, that's like Hammurabi's Code. That's the Hammurabi's Code punishment for peeing on a floor. No, but also I would say like the best way to do after is to avoid it by not drinking too much, mixing in some waters, and learning about the dangers of alcohol in health class when they're trying to teach you the first time. Because those people aren't just, they aren't just old bags trying to give you some bad lessons. They're wise people.
Do you ever teach anything like that at school? Like
Not in an official curriculum.
Oh,
I've
okay,
talked
gotcha.
to kids before who are like high, or who have told me that they've, like seniors more often, who will like tell me they drank over a weekend or something like that. And I will
Okay.
like talk to them about
Sure.
like how to stay, making sure that they're safe,
Yeah.
right? And like how to not do it when they're in high school because their brain is still developing, and how to make sure that they're staying safe and making good choices and whatever.
Gotcha.
And so I've talked to kids about that.
Gotcha. So
a lot.
more in like an informal capacity.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about AP Stats before.
Yeah.
Last year there was a problem on the AP Stats exam a few years ago about binge drinking, and I
Okay.
heard some of my kids jokingly said like, "I can't wait to get to college and binge drink," and they're
Ooh.
joking.
Yeah.
But it is also like, I could see their future in their eyes of being like, these were. I was gonna say nerdy kids. I don't mean that as an insult. They were in AP. They were great kids. I liked them a lot. But I could see the whole thing happening. I could see, they don't know what they're in for.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I was like, let's talk about ways to make sure that doesn't happen.
So
to
that
you.
started like a conversation with the kids?
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible,
And
Brian.
I won't. Oh, thank you. I won't be
Yeah.
100% honest with them, but like, this is exactly what I
Yeah,
did.
Sure.
But I will tell them like, I've made mistakes
Yeah.
in that aspect of my life, and here's what you should try to do to avoid those mistakes from happening for yourself.
That's such a
Right.
wonderful teacher, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome, my friend.
Oh.
Brian, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me, this camera or this camera over here. Oh, that's
you're
right.
you're this one here.
You can find me on Instagram at Brian Elberg. It's just my name, no stage name. It's Brian Elberg, Elberg. And then if you find me there, that's kind of all you need. The only thing you need to do right now. And then I post shows and whatnot on there, and hopefully have some more coming up soon. So
Hell yeah, dude.
yeah.
Dude, this was awesome. Thank you
it
so
was
much.
awesome. We did an hour 45. Right?
I know, dude. That's awesome.
Pretty good.
Hell yeah.
Pretty good.
We're going You Made It Weird style with Pete Holmes, where it's like we're not editing, we're just putting it out. And
Yeah, feel free.
dude, I love it. That's
There you
awesome.
go. All right,
Brian
man.
Elberg, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you,
here's-
man. You're the best.
Dude.
Kindest man in comedy.
Oh my God. And I'm just
There you
I'm
go.
awkwardly good now.
Yeah.
And here's to hoping we left you a little higher. All right, man, we did it.
We did.